The drowning ones. The villagers warned him, stay away from the lake. But Thomas was never one to listen. The old story spoke of a kelpie, a water demon that took the form of a magnificent black horse, luring travelers onto its back before dragging them beneath the surface. Tomas dismissed it as nothing more than peasant superstition, a tale to keep children in line. He was a man of reason, of logic, until the night he heard the neighing. It was late when he found himself near the lake, the mist curling through the trees like skeletal fingers. The air was thick, damp, heavy with something unseen, something watching. A lantern swung weakly in his grasp, casting flickering light over the ground. The path twisted ahead, barely visible beyond the fog. He had been walking longer than he realized, footsteps muffled by the damp earth. Then came the sound, low and distant at first, but unmistakable. A horse's whinny. He turned, pulse quickening, and saw it. A black stallion stood perfectly still at the water's edge, its coat gleaming like polished obsidian, its long, wet mane clinging to its neck. It did not move, did not flick its tail, did not shift its weight, just stared. The villagers claimed no horse had roamed these lands for years, yet here it was, untamed, untouched, a creature of pure beauty. Tomas felt something stir inside him. He had trained horses his whole life. If he captured this beast, it would be the prize of a lifetime. The thought of parading into the village atop this magnificent stallion, proving them all wrong, sent a thrill through him. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped forward. The kelpie did not shy away, did not so much as twitch. It watched him with deep, endless eyes, black pits that reflected no light. The moment his fingers brushed its damp hide, a shudder crawled up his spine. Too cold, too smooth, too wrong. But he ignored the unease creeping into his bones. The horse did not flinch, did not resist. It let him touch it, let him stroke its sleek neck. A whisper of triumph flickered in his mind. Then it turned its head. Too far, far too far. The movement was unnatural, its neck bending as if it had no bones, its face twisting until it was staring at him upside down. And it grinned. Tomas yanked his hand away, but he couldn't. His fingers had sunk into its skin. A horrible wetness clung to him, thick and cloying, like being stuck in sinking mud. Panic seized his chest as he pulled, but the more he struggled, the deeper his fingers sank, the more the kelpie absorbed him. Its flesh rippled, shifting around his hand, his wrist creeping up his arm. The horse laughed, a bubbling, unnatural sound that did not belong in the throat of any earthly beast. Then it lunged. A force like iron chains wrapped around him, yanking him off his feet. His boots scraped against the rocks as the kelpie dragged him forward. Cold water surged over his ankles, his knees, his waist. He screamed, dug his nails into its hide, but his fingers were no longer his own. Merged, melded, claimed. The water pulled, the kelpie pulled, the blackness swallowed. Thomas thrashed, lungs burning, pressure crushing his chest. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Shapes moved in the darkness. Something brushed his leg, something soft, something that did not belong. His heart pounded against his ribs. He forced his eyes open and saw faces, pale, bloated, floating just beneath the surface. Mouths open, eyes wide, screaming. The last thing he felt was teeth sinking into his throat. The next morning, the villagers found the footprints by the lake's edge. They stopped abruptly. The water was unnaturally still, darker than it had been the day before. One of the men swore he saw something beneath the surface, something just out of reach, something that hadn't been there before. A face, eyes wide, mouth open, screaming.